Hey everyone, welcome to Wealth Redefined. I'm your host, Michael Reynolds, independent financial advisor and owner of Elevation Financial. Thanks for joining me today. Welcome. Today we're talking 401k plans and what if you don't have one? So the question is, what if you don't have a 401k plan? What do you do? People wonder this a lot because they maybe don't have an employer plan available, or they're a business owner, or they're with a job that doesn't offer one, or they're in between careers. So a lot of situations can lead to this kind of state of not having a 401k plan available to you. And the question comes up, hey, well, what do I do if I don't have one? Is there, should I just kind of wait? Are there other options for me? And so we're going to kind of talk through some of that today. So first of all, let's briefly touch on what a 401k plan is, what it does, kind of what the mechanics of it are. The 401k plan is an employer-sponsored retirement plan. It's offered through an employer. So 401k plans are only available through an employer that will hire and employ you as a team member. And that is kind of the most popular and most prevalent and most common retirement plan in existence today. It's the one that everybody knows about. It's the one that everybody can kind of name as, oh, I've got a 401k plan at work, and everyone knows what that is. How does it work? It is a tax advantaged plan. All 401k plans offer a pre-tax option, which means that you can put money in before it is taxed, which lets you put a little bit more into your account before it is hitting your the taxes that come out of your paycheck. So that's a nice perk of it. Some 401k plans, more and more commonly, will offer a Roth option as well, which is a post-tax option, which means that the money grows tax-free, much like a Roth IRA. And those are a little bit less common, but they're becoming more common as time goes on. More employers are offering a Roth 401k option in their plans. So the tax treatment is one thing that makes the 401k plan a little bit special. The tax deduction you get when money goes in, or the tax-free growth when money is growing inside of it. So that tax treatment is kind of what makes it a little bit special. Something else that makes it a little bit special and advantageous is the match you sometimes get from it. Many employers will offer a match. So if you put money into it, then you're going to see that your employer is matching up to a certain percentage of the money you put in. So it's basically free money. So, we like that part about it. That's a nice perk of having a 401k plan. So we've kind of been trained as a society to kind of default to 401k plans as kind of the default way to save for retirement. We all just kind of know about it. We're used to it. It's kind of the thing that we kind of fall back on. And so often I see that if people don't have a 401k plan available to them, they often don't know what the best options are for saving for retirement. So I want to first start by saying, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more at the end as well after we go through some options, but there is an overemphasis, I think, placed on how magical a 401k plan is thought to be. It's not really that magical. There's not really this super special, incredibly magical thing about a 401k plan. The things that make it good and useful to people are the tax treatment. So again, being able to have a tax deduction is helpful sometimes, and being able to have tax-free growth inside of it, if you have a Roth option, can be good. So having money that is sheltered from taxes is not a bad thing. That is a good thing, and that's going to be useful. The other part of it is the match. So if your 401k plan offers a match, that is a useful part of it. That is a benefit. That is an advantage. You're getting that free money you wouldn't otherwise have. So those are nice things to have. But in the grand scheme of things, I think sometimes they are overemphasized, and we'll talk through that a little bit near the end as well here. So let's first say, okay, let's say hypothetically you don't have a 401k plan available to you. What do you do? I'm going to separate this into two categories. One is if you are a regular employee, and two is if you are a business owner, because there are different options available depending on who you are. So let's say you're a regular employee, you happen to be at a job that's maybe part-time or full-time, but does not offer a 401k plan. A lot of smaller companies don't offer one. And so let's say you're in a position where you don't have a 401k plan available to you, but you are an employee. You don't own your own business, at least not at this point. So what are your options? The most popular kind of fallback option is the IRA or the Roth IRA, and sometimes the backdoor Roth IRA. So an IRA stands for individual retirement arrangement. Some people say individual retirement account, kind of a slang way of saying it, but it's technically individual retirement arrangement. And it is a personal individual retirement plan. The thing that makes it a retirement plan is that tax treatment. The government says, okay, we're going to give you some tax sheltering on the account. And in return, we're going to let you put tax sheltered money into it. And to give us in return, we're going to put a limit on how much you can put into it. And we're going to put penalties on it for early withdrawal. So it's really designated for retirement age, which in this case is 59 and a half at the time of this discussion. So a traditional IRA lets you put money in pre-tax, which means you get a tax deduction on the money. And a Roth IRA means you can put money in post-tax, but then that money grows tax-free. So the traditional IRA will be taxed when you take it out of retirement. The Roth IRA is taxed now, but then it grows tax-free at retirement. Both accounts have a limitation. You can't take the money out earlier than 59 and a half, or you will get penalized for that withdrawal. So that's kind of how they work. So the first step is generally to go to an IRA. So if you don't have a retirement plan through work, you don't have a 401k plan, that's kind of your first stop. I mentioned the backdoor Roth IRA. I want to mention that as a side note because a lot of times people who are high earners that phase out of the ability to directly contribute to a Roth IRA feel like they don't have that option. In many cases, you do. There are some caveats to it, but there is something called a backdoor Roth IRA, which allows you in some cases to make a contribution that ends up being in a Roth IRA anyway, despite your income limits. There's some caveats there, so don't take this as specific advice to do that. Be sure you talk to a professional who can help you with that, navigate that particular decision. Okay, so let's say you max out your IRA or your Roth IRA. The limitations as of 2021 for IRAs and Roth IRAs are $6,000 per year if you're under 50, $7,000 per year if you're over 50. So you've got a limit there. So let's say your retirement plan calls for saving more. You want to be able to save more to accelerate that or to make sure you're on track. So what do you do? Well, there are a couple other options you could look at. One is your HSA. HSA stands for Health Savings Account, and it's not available to everybody. But if you have a health insurance plan that is HSA compatible, you can set up an HSA and use that as somewhat of a hybrid retirement plan option as well. It goes in with a tax deduction. It grows tax deferred. And in some cases, depending on what it's used for, it can be withdrawn and used tax-free. Now, in retirement, it kind of converts more to a traditional IRA, so you're not going to have tax-free at that point. But for medical expenses, it's often tax-free. So it has a lot of tax advantages. And some people don't realize that it's not just a healthcare account. You can treat it like a retirement account if you don't have to dip into it as often for healthcare expenses. So the HSA is sometimes a reasonable next stop along the way as you are looking for non-401k options. So what else? The taxable account is a pretty great catch-all for a lot of situations. And that is another stop that you might look at if you are a regular employee, not a business owner, and you want to go beyond the IRA. And maybe you have maxed out your HSA or don't have an HSA available to you. The taxable account is really underutilized. And it sounds like it's bad because it's called taxable account. And who wants to put money in a thing called a taxable account? We don't want taxable money, right? Well, that's just what it's called because it doesn't have any kind of tax sheltering. It's just basically a general investment account. You can put the exact same things into your taxable account as you would put into a 401k or an IRA. What's inside of it is what determines the rate of return and the potential growth. So whether it's a 401k or an IRA or an HSA or a taxable account, you can put the exact same things inside of it in theory. You can put cash inside of all of them, which is usually not a great idea. You can put stocks, bonds, mutual funds, equities, fixed income, all sorts of things inside of it, even real estate sometimes. So you can put different types of investments inside of these accounts. So the taxable account is virtually identical to an IRA with the exception that it has no tax treatment and therefore no limitations, no penalties for early withdrawal, and no limits on what you can put into it, and no limits on income as well. So basically you strip away all of the limitations imposed by the government in exchange for that tax treatment. So a taxable account is a really great option to fill up the rest of your investing when you've maxed out or exhausted other possibilities as a regular employee. Anyone can set one up. You can set one up through any brokerage, through a financial advisor like me, if you want help with it and help investing. It's very accessible. And you can set up multiple taxable accounts as well. And you can start saving money into those taxable accounts. And you can put the same types of investments inside of those as you would other types of accounts like a 401k. So it can grow in the same fashion, in the same way. So the nice thing about taxable accounts is that, again, they're flexible. You can withdraw the money whenever you want to. You can put as much money as you want to into it. You can make as much money in income as you want without worrying about limitations. It's completely flexible. And so a lot of people use these as multi-purpose accounts. It can be kind of a backup emergency fund. It can be a retirement account. It can be all of the above. You can set up multiple buckets by multiple taxable accounts. So that is something that a lot of people don't utilize very often. So I want to point these out because so much of the time I see that people say, okay, well, I've left a job. I had a 401k. I don't have one now. I'm just going to not do anything. And I would Leslie's popping in on Facebook Live to say vacation fund. Yes, absolutely. A taxable account can make a great vacation fund, especially because a vacation is not a necessity. So if the market's down and you're lower in value than you want to be, you just wait. You wait till the market comes back, and then you can use it for vacation or whatever. So that's a great use for a taxable account as well. Thanks, Leslie. So as you are moving through these options, don't neglect the taxable brokerage account or multiple taxable accounts, because that gives you a ton of flexibility, a lot of room to save. And again, it can be invested aggressively, just like retirement accounts. So this can be a supplement to your retirement savings plan and be a big part of it as well. Okay, let's say you're a business owner. Let's say you, again, don't have access to a 401k through an employer because you own your own business. Maybe you're a solo business owner, maybe a small team. And you're like, okay, great. What do? I don't have anything available to me, so I'm just not going to do anything. Well, doing something is better than nothing. So you may not have a match available like you would through an employer, but you have a lot of options as a business owner. One is, again, the IRA, Roth IRA, or backdoor Roth IRA, as we talked about before. That's available to you. So we've already covered that. The HSA, potentially, depending on your healthcare plan, may or may not be available to you. So there's that. You also have some business retirement plans available to you. You've got the SEP, you've got the simple IRA, and the solo or standard 401k. So before we get to the 401k, coming back around to that, let's talk about the SEP and the simple. So SEP stands for Standardized Employee Pension. Simple IRA is sort of I wouldn't say a miniature, but a more lightweight retirement account that is, there's less paperwork and less expense when compared to a 401k. Those are not terrible plans, but I'm not usually a big fan of them. And here's why. They don't offer a Roth option. And there are some other little caveats and disadvantages as well. So, but a lot of people do use them and some people like them. So a SEP lets you save quite a bit of pre-tax money. Upwards of, $58,000 as of this year is the limitation on a SEP. A simple is more modest. But both let you save a good amount of money pre-tax with that tax deduction, tax treatment when you put money into it. So you get a tax deduction, lowering your taxable income when you make use of them. As a business owner, under certain conditions, again, not a one size fits all, but under certain conditions, you can set these accounts up for your business pretty inexpensively and pretty easily. The caveat, though, is they don't offer a Roth option, and there are still some limitations. So I'm a big fan of the solo 401k if you're a solo business owner. I've talked about this a few times in the past on the show, and I love bringing it up because it's so underutilized. So many people don't know how this works or that it even exists. But there is a thing called a solo 401k plan that you, as a solo business owner or even a 1099 contractor, can set up for your business. And that lets you put aside a good amount of money in Roth and even more into pre-tax as well. So you've got that Roth option. So as of 2021, you can save up to $19,500 if you're under 50, up to $25,000 if you're over 50 into the Roth or the employer or employee portion of your solo 401k. So that's a lot of room. Generally, a lot of people are fine just having that as your bucket available to you. If you want to go beyond that, you can put even more employer contribution in up to $58,000. So you've got a lot of room when you fill up the rest of that pre-tax money as well. So let's say you are not a solo business owner, but you have employees. Okay, you can actually set up your own 401k plan. Even if you have one employee or two or three, or a lot of people don't think they have access to a 401k plan because they're such a tiny business with like one or two employees, but you do have options. You can set these up. There's a lot of providers and platforms that make it accessible. I won't name them all now because I don't want to come off as endorsing anyone in particular, but there are a handful of really low cost, high tech 401k platforms out there that I actually use with my clients as well that can make 401k plans really accessible and really affordable. So if you feel like because you're a business owner or even a solo or small business owner, you don't have access to a 401k plan, kind of a myth. You really do. You can set these up pretty inexpensively. So if you need help with that, reach out. I can talk you through what those look like. And then finally, as a business owner, again, the taxable account, a great catch-all account that you can set up in the form of one of them or two or three or more of them. I personally have multiple taxable accounts for my family because they're in different buckets. We have, some long-term, some medium-term, some short-term, invested in different ways. And again, the lack of limitation and the complete flexibility can make those really attractive. And here's the thing. Are they taxable? Yes, they're taxable. We don't like hearing that they're taxable as much as we would like hearing, tax deferred or tax free or tax deduction from retirement accounts. But they can be made pretty tax efficient. What you put inside of it matters. So a lot of times we're going to look at, okay, if we're having a taxable account set up for long-term investing, we're going to put inside of it investments that are as tax efficient as possible. And therefore we're not going to be as bothered by the fact that they're taxable. Yeah, we're going to pay taxes, but it's not going to be as much of a burden as if we were putting investments in that would generate lots of taxable income along the way. So we can be pretty tax efficient as we use these taxable accounts. So we're going to keep them as tax friendly as possible, as tax efficient as possible. So all this discussion is a great philosophical thought process, in my opinion, on taxes in general. We spend so much time, I think when I say we, I mean we as a society and just humans in general, at least in the US, we spend so much time trying to avoid taxes that we often become kind of, we get tunnel vision on taxes. A lot of times advisors will say it's the tax tail wagging the dog. It's kind of a funny phrase people use, but it's a way of saying that if we're so obsessed with taxes and saving taxes, we'll often miss other opportunities, or we'll have a short-sighted view of what the long-term plan looks like. So are taxes important? Yes, we need to, not create tax inefficiencies. We need to make sure that we are being mindful of taxes. But in some cases, saving on taxes is not the most important thing. And it's not the thing that should be driving the decision-making. So again, that's why I kind of think the taxable account is pretty underutilized and often ignored, because that misconception of, oh, taxes are so bad. It's super flexible and comes with a lot of advantages. So, let's not get so hung up on taxes that we ignore other benefits and other options as well. So you have options. That's the point. A 401k plan is not the only route for saving for retirement, or even it's not even always the best route. Often it's a great route for a lot of people. But if you don't have access to one and you don't know what to do, look at these options. Look at the IRA, Roth IRA, backdoor Roth, HSA, and especially that taxable account. And as a business owner, think about how you can set up your own 401k plan as a solo or as a small business. And then again, leverage those taxable accounts for additional savings. And don't be afraid to invest in this money that, yes, is taxable, but can be made tax efficient. And taxes are not the thing that should be standing in your way toward making progress toward your goals. So those are some options. Again, not an exhaustive list, but the core list of things that I would recommend looking through as you are evaluating non-employer sponsored 401k options, either as an employee or as a business owner. So as always, I love feedback. I love to hear from you. So if you want to reach out, definitely give me a shout. And you can reach me on my website, which is elevationfinancial.com. There's a button on the homepage you can click to say book a complimentary money session, and be happy to chat more about your questions, or just send me a note. People send me emails all the time through my contact form and ask questions. And I usually say, let's book a meeting, but I also can answer questions if they're kind of simple and short, and happy to hear from you. So with that, thanks for joining me today. Have a great day. We'll see you next time. All right. Thanks, Leslie, and everyone else who joined. Appreciate the comments. Yeah, I like your vacation fund comment. That's a really great use of taxable accounts. I know that a lot of people save up in little brokerage accounts or even bigger ones for bigger vacations, and that's a great way to save. So, Leslie, thanks as always for being here. And Leslie says, I spend too much time on Facebook. Don't we all? Well, if you're going to spend time on Facebook, I'm glad you're spending it here with me. So thanks for being here. I always appreciate it. All right. Well, thanks everyone. I will catch you later. Thanks for being here today. Thanks everyone. Bye.